Hey Emma,
Yes, Mount.
what do you call a secret liquid container that's labeled with a monkey emoji and the 15th letter of the alphabet?
Well, what do you call it?
An iconoflask. Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone. Why is there a monkey?
It was just the icon, and I wanted
Oh,
to tie it into the other game.
what's the 15th letter of the alphabet?
Oh. Icon O. Flask.
Iconoclasts. Oh, I get it.
I told you it was really weak. I was like, let's just lean into this.
Yeah, you leaned in real hard that you fell on your face, I think.
Hashtag lean in.
I'm Emma.
And I'm Madelyn. And thanks for tuning in. If you stuck around after that incredibly terrible, I don't know that I can even call it a joke this week, incredibly terrible piece of word play, sort of. We call it word, it's like word murder.
You know,
really.
I honestly wish we had stats that showed where people dropped off.
You do, you can see that in Apple Podcasts.
Really?
I think you're supposed to be able to,
Oh,
yeah.
well, I'm really curious to see, people who drop off, about 30 seconds in.
Just, during the theme song. Maybe they stick around for the theme song. Theme song is great. Theme song is uniformly great.
Yes, it is.
But, yeah. That 30-second mark is probably it's a hard dip. So, as you might have guessed, probably not, from the joke, we've got some great games on tap this week. I don't know why the joke would let you guess that we've got great games, but it might allow you to guess one of those games, or even two if you're feeling particularly pugnacious.
Yes.
Pugnacious is not the right word, but I liked the alliteration there. So this week, we're going to be talking about Escape from Monkey Island?
The Secret of Monkey Island.
No!
Mel just embarrassed herself real hard.
There's one that's Escape.
There probably is,
The
yes.
Secret of Monkey Island. See, the secret of Monkey Island is that the game is not actually titled Escape from Monkey Island.
Yes, that's the twist at the end.
That's the twist. And Iconoclasts.
Yes.
So, two games, perhaps about very different in subject matter.
Yeah.
But less different than you would think. I mean, no, they're definitely different in gameplay too, but I just think of them both as being based on old school styles of games.
Yeah. And there's puzzles in both of them. The puzzles in Iconoclasts are obviously different than the puzzles in Secret of Monkey Island, but they're still puzzles.
Anyway, jumping right on in to The Secret of Monkey Island, a game to which I definitely know the title of.
Yes.
It's a 1990 point-and-click adventure from LucasArts.
Yes, the once reigning kings of the adventure game genre.
We've talked about games from LucasArts before on our show, namely Grim Fandango. Grim Fandango, which, destroyed the studio.
Yes.
But we have, and Escape from, oh my gosh, no. The Secret of Monkey Island, not Escape from, Secret of Monkey Island. This is going to be the whole show, is me saying Escape from Monkey Island.
It will be.
But Monkey Island, as I'm going to call it now to avoid further embarrassment, is one of the most beloved games, I hesitate to say of all time, because I had not really heard of it. But it's a very beloved, very classic game that for a long time was rated as one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit wild to think about. I read at least one review of this game that was from 1990, 1991, that was this just revolutionizes point and click adventure games. You can click on things and talk to them just by clicking on them.
That's so funny
And
to
it was
think about.
that's insane. That's insane that this is being able to point and click on things and just interact with them just that way was considered revolutionary.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you haven't heard of Secret of Monkey Island, had to catch myself there. This is really embarrassing. As we said, 1990 game, LucasArts, and it's about being a pirate, and your name, let me get this right. Emma, can you get this right for me? What's the name of the main character of this game?
His name is Guybrush Threepwood.
Threepwood. Guybrush Threepwood. Not really sure how they came up with that name.
Well, they came up with Guybrush because they had been just saving files as Guy, and there was one file that was Guybrush, and to indicate like it was like brush. So they're like, that's a good name.
And then Threepwood,
I think, was a competition, actually.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
Anyway, Guybrush Threepwood, your main character, you're a dude who wants to become a pirate, basically.
Yeah.
And so you go to this place called Madelyn Island, and when you're there, you fall in love with the mayor, and basically you have to do all these challenges and, in gameplay, solve all these puzzles to become a better pirate and eventually win the mayor's heart and also rescue her from this like undead pirate guy whose name is escaping me but is also weird.
LeChuck?
LeChuck.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The second game is called like LeChuck's Return or LeChuck's Revenge or something to that
effect.
Yes.
And if you listen to our Grim Fandango episode, or if you've played any of these games, LucasArts is very well known for making not only games that were revolutionary kind of at the time in terms of gameplay and graphics and all that. This one less so for graphics, but Grim Fandango for graphics to some extent. Mm-hmm. But also for making games that are just known for their sense of humor.
Yes.
The Secret of Monkey Island is known as being this incredibly funny, hilarious game where basically everything you click on has some kind of a joke attached to it. Mm-hmm. Which is just... it's interesting, again, that these reviews made kind of a big deal out of like, wow, it's funny. Who would have thought a video game can be funny? Which just feels very quaint almost 30 years later.
Yeah. I mean, in 1990, we were still sort of getting to the idea that, like, it can tell stories,
That was another thing. They made a big deal, this review made a big deal out of, I don't think you'll ever see another game yet where the setting and the gameplay are so intertwined. It's like, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
It was just like, it's a pirate game, and you do pirate things.
Yeah. There's like some sort of mechanic where it's like verbal sparring.
Yeah, you duel via insults.
Yeah.
Because it's a point and click game, right, in these kinds of games, there's not really the capacity for real, too much combat mechanics yet. And so it seems like the way they got around it with this game is instead you kind of hurl insults.
Yeah, and you have to like lose occasionally so you can learn like more insults that you can then use on other people. I was reading a couple of Vice, like, really effusive Vice articles about it.
Yeah, so they made a remaster of the game in 2010, which is available on Steam, which is pretty cheap. I don't know. I'm seriously considering downloading it this week and trying to play it, except that, one, I'm busy, but that's always, so, like, let's write that off, right? Assuming I can make time for it. But two, I don't know. The reviews that I read, the sort of modern reviews, I think I read that same Vice profile, do make a big deal out of, oh, it's still fun, right? It's still fun. It's still funny. It's still great. But I didn't enjoy Grim Fandango. Like, I found Grim Fandango really hard to play and really frustrating. Mm-hmm. And even though I kind of enjoyed the sense of humor and the aesthetic of it, I just found it, like, really hard. Someone's got to convince me. Right? I might put out a call. Like, somebody convince me that I should spend $10 on this game and see what it's all about.
I thought it was on PlayStation 3, too.
I think it is. It was originally on all sorts of systems that, like, no one... Like, Amiga, right? Like, all these, like, computer systems that just, like, nobody would recognize this anymore. Like, nobody knows what this is.
Yeah.
That's not fair. Like... I'm sure there are old people, not old people. Wow, I'm just digging this pit. Just like clicking on the dig pit option. Don't mean that. just mean that in my frame of reference and the frame of reference of most of the people I interact with, no one has heard of the Amiga, nor will they ever unless they're listening to the show, in which case, hi everyone.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, part of your frustration with Grim Fandango, I think, is it was just your Mac is not great for games, right? I think it froze a few times and stuff.
Well, I did have the issue with Grim Fandango where something glitched out and I was like stuck.
Yeah. So I don't know if like maybe some of your frustrations would be eased by playing it on a PlayStation 3.
That's fair, but that was not really the source of the majority of my frustration. The reason I did not continue to play stubbornly, as I probably would have, is that, like, I think the game, like, glitched out and I was not going to be able to move on and I was going to have to go back and do it all again, which would have sucked. But it was just that these point-and-click games, I don't know, I've gotten so used to being very coddled by my video games. I feel like very rarely in games that I play, anyway, and I realize this may not be universally the case, but very rarely in games that I play do I feel as though I am struggling to progress, or I don't know how to progress. And Grim Fandango does not have a hint system. Now, the old version, to get back to the game I'm actually supposed to be talking about here, of Secret of Monkey Island, had no hint system. The new remastered one does. Which, while part of me is like, how dare I have to figure this out myself, I think would be useful in a game like this, where most of the action is like mousing your mouse over the thing, hoping that you find something that lights up. It's hard to imagine that as fun.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I like adventure games. I like my Phoenix Wright games. Although I will admit that, like, playing the newer ones and then going back to the old ones and not having, like, the checklist thing is a little disorienting. Because there's a lot of walking back and forth, waiting for things to happen. But yeah, I don't know. I like point-and-click adventures, so maybe that's just the difference. I like wandering around and clicking on things.
I don't mind wandering around, as you can attest from watching me play Breath of the Wild.
Oh my god.
Right? I don't mind wandering around. It's not the wandering around or the necessarily... I just don't like search quests, basically, ever. When Clickbait Boyfriend and I played Borderlands, the stupid search quests where you have to, like, find the stupid things, like, laying around an area and they don't really direct you to them anymore. I hate those. I'm just not good at them. And again, fully acknowledging, and I'd love to talk more about this is because I've gotten used very much to my navigation systems and my mini-maps and the game always sort of telling me what I need to do next.
Oh, you know what I read? One of the Vice articles was actually about... like, they used to call the LucasArts hint line when they got stuck in Secret of Monkey Island. Like, they had a phone line that you could call, and they would ask, like, which game do you want? And you'd have to do that, and then you'd get to, like, the hint line person.
That's wild.
I know, right?
Can you imagine, like, hey, what's your job? I work at a video game hint line.
Yeah. So there's, like, look it up. There's, like, a Vice article that's just, like, an ode to the hint line guy in Secret of Monkey Island.
That's crazy.
Because they would call so often, being like, I need help.
Well, they also had, apparently, in the original edition of the game, they had, like, a stump you could look at that'd be like, secret entrance to the catacombs, and it was like, insert disc 22, then 36, then 114. But they got so many people calling in about it. It was a joke, right? Like, they got so many people calling in about it, they, like, took it out.
That's funny.
Subsequent. Yeah.
I also noticed, and I guess this makes sense thinking about it, but, like, the 1990 version is, like, the 1990 style of, like, graphics, right?
Yeah,
like,
they updated
very,
it.
like, realistic looking, like, image. Like,
okay, realistic.
But they don't look like digital characters.
I know, but
you
let's
know
put
what I
that
mean?
in heavy quotes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, they are drawn similarly to real people. Like, it's not like moving things around. It's like still images.
Right.
With them.
It's not stylized.
Yeah. And now they've moved since then in, like, the subsequent entries into, like, a really heavily stylized look. And so when you, like, the 2009 version, and apparently you can just swap it back and forth
You can
easily.
do that in Grim Fandango, too.
But it's very different. because they look like cartoon characters from the 2009. It's not bad. I think it looks better that way. But it's very dramatic art shift.
And did you also know that this game, like one of our other favorite game series, draws some inspiration from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Draws some inspiration, or was the inspiration for?
Other way around. So the ride at Disney World, which is the inspiration for the movie series, has been around forever, right? So that's what the movie series is based on, this Disney World ride. And obviously, Pirates of the Caribbean was not filmed until the early 2000s, right? So this game predates that by about a decade. But their kind of impetus for creating this game was like somebody on the team, or a couple people on the team, like really loved that ride.
Wow.
And they were like, man, like whenever I'm on that ride, like I want to get up and like talk to those people. And so like that's how they made this game.
That's
They're like,
funny.
let's base it on that.
I mean, those are two very different, drastically different interpretations, I would say.
Yes.
That we've gotten from this one theme park ride. So, good job, Disney.
Schmorlando Schmoom. That's what they could have named Three Flop.
Guybrush Threepwood.
Three Plop.
Threepwood.
Three Iconoclasts. Trying here.
Madelyn's trying really hard.
It's fascinating. I just want to go back to, I love reading praise for old games that feel so quaint now. And people talking about them is so boundary pushing. Because for me, it's really, really, really hard to envision a point and click game as boundary pushing. Like, that is really hard.
I mean, it's kind of like Doom when we talked about it a few days ago. Like, if you go back to that like old
Last
version.
week, you mean? Exactly 2 weeks ago, not a few days ago.
Sorry.
Exactly 2 weeks ago.
I don't know why I said a few days ago. It's been a while. I'm sorry, folks. But it's like Doom. Like, you look at the original screenshots for that, and you're like, this was boundary pushing. This was genre defining. And it's hard to believe. And Resident Evil, too. Like, looking at the first one, it's just so hard to imagine, like, the third-person survival horror being, like, revolutionary new game genre.
Do you think we're kind of past that?
No.
Not past those genres, but do you think we're past having those kind of, like, epoch-defining games?
No.
Like, what name a game that is, like, as defining as Doom?
Earthbound? For RPGs, BioShock.
When was
Probably.
BioShock made, though? BioShock's like
2007, I think.
That's 10 years ago.
So?
I'm not talking 2007. I agree that I'm not saying this was the last.
It's impossible to know today what will be genre defining. Like, you can make guesses, but you can't be like, wow, this game that came out yesterday is really going to change the shape of the games industry.
That's fair.
You know,
That's
unless
fair.
it's like, you know, some revolutionary VR technology that's like all the shows promise VR is going to be. Then you can be like, there you go.
It's just, maybe I'm revealing myself as a not very visionary forward thinker, but it's hard to really imagine other than VR. Like, I'm going to put VR aside because, of course, that's kind of the next frontier, right? And there's obviously still huge defining games to be made there, right? I think that's obvious. I think anyone can see that, but it's hard for me to imagine, like, where do video games go now? You know, how do these evolve past what they already are? I mean, obviously, it's like we still have a little ways to go towards them being 100% realistic graphics. Like, we still can't model friggin' clothes, right?
Yeah.
Or water very well, right? So, like, obviously those things are still doable, like, still need to be handled. But those are, like, you know, we're like, it's like a...
Gosh, Madelyn, I don't know. Where's theater going?
Well,
what can theater do?
That's fair. I mean, I feel the same way a little bit, right? I feel the same way. Of, like, I just, like, don't know, like, what is next. And again, I'm just revealing myself as not very visionary, but it's hard. In, like, point and click time, I feel like it would have been easier to be like, wow, we could have 3D graphics. We could have, like, real controls, right? It would have been easier then to imagine where this could go. And now we're at this point where, like, I just, like, can't fathom But maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Maybe in 1990, it's like, wow, this is crazy. I don't know where this is going to go next.
Yeah, probably.
I once again tried to read up on the coding language they used on this, and that was a mistake. Because I just never understand.
What is the coding language they've used
like
on this?
Ecom.
Ecom? Interesting. I've never actually heard of that.
Well, it's old, right?
There
they
you go.
got rid of it once they needed to do 3D graphics. But it's like something where it's like they can kind of like write it. It's like weirdly, it's like half a code, half like instructions. I don't know. You can hear me.
Well, all code is like half code, half instructions.
Okay, but it's like
if you're doing it right.
But the thing was, most of their computers were like not powerful enough to compile code. So like it just had to be simpler, and I don't know. Like I the whole point of this was that I can't talk about this. But I find it fascinating that people had to figure this out because I do not understand this even remotely.
Speaking of people having to figure things out,
Puzzles. Iconoclasts.
Iconoclasts.
Iconoblasts.
The joke this time is that Madelyn does not know any game titles.
That's the joke of the whole podcast.
So iconoclasts, which is a real word that means something. I don't remember what it means. You can kind of guess.
It means that you're, originally an iconoclast was someone who was against the church, which is relevant here. It's like you're someone who destroys icons.
Yes. So Iconoclasts came out this year.
Yep, in January.
Yes. Did it come out in January?
I believe that's what I read. It came out for the Switch this August.
This year. Oh, really? It did?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would have liked it better on the Switch. I don't know. Iconoclasts came out 2018, but it had been in development for like close to a decade by one guy. Joachim Sandberg, who goes by Konjak. So he made the entire game.
It seems like it almost killed him.
I can imagine. It's about like a 20-hour game. It's Metroidvania, which means like, you side scroll and you jump and there's platformers and you have a gun that does different things. And there's a story that's really trying. And yeah, I can imagine. Like, he's mostly, from my impression of him, he's mostly like a pixel artist. Like, he's mostly an artist. Like, he's made games before. I think it's Noi to Love and Noi to Love 2. People really liked those. But they don't have, my impression is that they don't have a story. It's more just like a sort of combat game. So Iconoclast was like a huge step up from that. And it's, as much as it has so much promise, I think it stands as like a real example of why generally trying to make a game entirely by yourself is a terrible idea.
He didn't even have a story arc for it. You know that?
When he started it?
He just kind of made it up as he went along.
That's actually kind of impressive. It's pretty coherent.
He says he started making it in his 20s, and so the game he started making at the beginning is like how he thought about the world in his 20s. And by the end, he's in his early 30s, and that he had completely changed his outlook by then. Mm-hmm. And he had to go back and change things a little bit, of course, but still bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, he did release a demo like a few years ago that was Ivory Springs, which is basically like the first part of the game, but the character designs are a little different, and things are a little different. But anyway, you follow Robin, who is your silent protagonist. She's a mechanic, but being a mechanic, or an unlicensed mechanic, is against the rules of, like, the governing church. It's like a theocracy.
And not like a car mechanic, right? Like a...
She does anything.
Right, but it's, like, special being a mechanic in this world.
Yeah, they have, like, a special...
Not that being a real mechanic isn't special, like, you go, like, you're important, but go on.
Special fuel called Ivory, that's only supposed to be touched by people who are authorized to touch it, right? So she's not really supposed to be doing anything with Ivory unlicensed, and it goes against, like, the theocratic rules of this society, and she gets caught, gets thrown in jail, and goes off on a rollicking adventure with some pirates who are like the oppressed class.
All right. Take note of that for the crossover.
Yeah. They're not like, I think pirates is like, I can't remember what their actual like society's name is, but pirates are what the One Concern calls them. The prince of the One Concern, her brother, and I think that's the 4 party members that you got throughout. And yeah, it tries. It's got a lot of really interesting things that it wants to say. And I think that if he'd had like an editor working on it, that it would have been really interesting. But as it is, it's kind of a confused mess.
Correct me if I'm wrong, did you do a play this on this or just a blog?
I did.
Okay.
I did it on Silent Protagonists, which it didn't help the story. I mean, even if Robin had talked, there were things with the story that were not great, and some of the writing could have used editing. I don't think English is first language. Like, there wasn't, like, riddled with grammar and typos, but just, like, some weird sentence structure sometimes. Yeah, but she's a silent protagonist, and it made a couple of scenes that I think were supposed to be emotional kind of confusing.
And we won't rehash too much of what you go into that video here, but suffice it to say, you should go check it out. I think it's like number 3 or number 4, the Silent Protagonist one.
I think it might be number 5, actually.
Well, forget it then. I know nothing. Bye. Thanks for listening.
I don't know what number it is.
Okay, well, it's in the Playlist series. You should check it out on our YouTube channel. It's Talk This Sisters, the Playlist playlist. The Play This playlist.
Yes,
I like that.
Yes.
And definitely check out Emma's analysis there because, like, that's really, really interesting. It's a great Play This. Do you ever think it's a good idea for someone to make a game on their own?
If it's a small game, I think that's fine. If you're making like a 2-hour game that has a pretty simple concept, and you have some amount of familiarity with how to do things, then yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, people make small games all the time to like augment their portfolios or for class projects or things like that. Like, I have to make a twine game by myself for my class, but that's like a whole different animal from trying to make a 20-hour game with a interesting story and interesting mechanics, right?
Is your twine game going to go up on the website?
On what website?
On our website?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see once I finish it.
But I mean, it's all well and good to say, yeah, it's fine. It's fine to make a 2-hour... Of course, it's fine to do a class project on your own. Like, that almost doesn't count, right? You're required to do that on your own. And it's one thing to say, yeah, it's fine to make a 2-hour game. But is it better than having someone else? I can't think of any situation, really, where bringing on another person to help you... And, wow, I can't believe I'm saying this, because, like, I'm the queen of being, like, I'm gonna do this all by myself. But I can't think of any situation with a game where at least bringing on someone to edit or someone to help you work on it in some way wouldn't make the game better.
I mean, yes, I think every game needs playtesters, right? You need people to play it and tell you what they think before you release it. Well, in terms of developing a game, I think that there are cases where, especially where a game is like, if a game is intensely personal, then, and you want it to be your singular artistic vision, because, like, you can be a team and have a similar vision, and that's good for a lot of games by having different inputs. But if it's a small personal game, then yeah, work on it by yourself, right? If it's a passion project and it's reasonably small, it's not going to kill you. But playtesters, yeah, I agree, playtesters are important for every game.
I just think video games need to develop, like, a dramaturg, like, function. I don't know, like, in plays, right, with playwrights, and people have very mixed feelings about this, right, but I almost went to school for it, so whatever. I'm generally thumbs up. Like, you'll have dramaturgs who come on and kind of help the playwright edit and help with historical accuracy and help with, I mean, don't get me started in trying to explain what dramaturgy is, all right? Like, we don't have time for this. But if you're going to make a game by yourself, it feels like you need to have some kind of, not just a playtester, like, obviously you need a playtester, right? Like, that's not what I mean. Those playtesters are not part of the team, right? I mean, they're integral parts of the team, but they're not part of the team. Mm-hmm. I just mean, if you're going to make a game by yourself, you better at least have someone you trust as, like, an ombudsman to go through and be like, I don't know. Not just play through it and be like, here's where it's glitchy, here's my opinion, but to really deep dive it with you and make sure it is what you wanted. And not just what you wanted, but is, like, what it should be. I don't know. It's hard for me to fathom making something, like, spending 8 years making a game.
Yeah.
That is, like, I know that 20-hour game, like, that's not, like, short or anything. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not denigrating this, but, like, it's 20 hours. Like, that's it. It's done. 8 years of your life. And he said, like, in interviews, he's like in 2014 at some point, like, he just got so depressed. And the only thing that kept him going was, like, if you quit now, you'll have thrown away 5 years of your life. It's just, I can't imagine it.
Yeah. It really is, like, I mean, people have made, the Stardew Valley guy made that by himself. Yeah?
I think so.
Yeah. Braid was made by someone by himself. It's not like doing things by yourself always result in disaster, obviously.
I feel like it does always result in the, like, interviews with the creator being like, yeah, somewhere in there I just, like, wanted to die.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's the problem. And sometimes you've got such a good idea or can power through it or whatever, and you end up with something like Stardew Valley. And sometimes you just can't quite make a Stardew Valley. I don't know.
It just makes me sad because, you know, even though Iconoclasts, and I haven't played it, but even though it might be a little bit of a mess, right, it's still got uniformly pretty positive reviews and was, you know, I assume sold pretty well.
I mean, they brought it to the Switch, so it must be.
So, you know, it's a success, even if it's not, you know, a masterpiece or like just like an essential game or whatever. But it makes me sad to think of all the people who are like doing this and do quit in year 4.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just makes me sad.
And that's why you should have a team. Like, even if you want to do most of the work by yourself, have somebody there to, like, spot check you even. I don't know. To, like, focus on that particular area and make sure you're getting all the things you want out of it.
And this guy who made Iconoclasts also talked in some interviews about how, like, he enjoyed the level design. Like, he liked making the levels. When you built a level, you feel like you've actually built something. Mm-hmm. But he really didn't like making the cutscenes. He, like, found those really draining. They were much more time-consuming than doing the levels. They didn't feel as good. It's like, the obvious solution here, dude, is to
just hire a writer.
Yeah, it's like to storyboard. No, you don't even have to do that. Like, if you want to write it yourself, fine. But the obvious solution is to bring on an intern and, like, let them do the stupid, like, frame, like, whatever you have to do to animate a cutscene.
I mean, the thing is, though, I think, like, his pixel art, it has, like, that's the best part of the game, I think, is how expressive the characters can be. And even then, they don't have quite enough range of emotion to really capture the story. But, I mean, yeah, the cutscenes are more complicated because he has to do way more animation for the characters than the levels.
I mean, I don't pretend to know anything about game design, right? This is something probably I should work on for year 3 of Talk This, right? Is to learn a little bit more about how game design, like, actually works, as opposed to just, like, magic, computers and magic. Mm-hmm. But you have to imagine, even within that, like, very detailed pixel art, right? There has to be some busy work.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Like, especially within animated cutscenes, which presumably just have a lot of the same elements kind of over and over and over again. No?
No.
Not at all?
I mean, you know, sometimes. I can think of a lot of scenes that had unique animation.
I know, but, like, within those scenes, there has to be, like, something that's, I don't know. It just feels like there has to be some busy work within those scenes.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's not any busy work. I'm just saying that, no, you could not bring on an intern to do all the cutscenes. Not
all the cutscenes. That wasn't what I was saying. I say bring on, this dude talked in interviews about how, like, next time he'll take weekends off.
No. Work with somebody, make friends.
Like, bring somebody on to do that busy work for, like, a day. You know? Yeah. So the game keeps moving forward and you can, like, take a day off. Wow, I feel like I am just, like, roasting myself here
Me
now.
too.
I'm like...
I was like, make friends, man.
Find someone else to work with and take a day off.
Yeah. But I feel like I want to say positive things about it, because I really enjoyed, like, the first 5 hours a lot. It's really fun. The animation is really nice. As long as you know what to do with the puzzles, it's great. And as long as it doesn't have to do with like grabbing onto something with the wrench multiple times, because the hitbox on that is frustrating. But generally, like, the platforming puzzles are fun. The bosses were like some of the most fun bosses. Like, those are some great boss design. Like, you die sometimes, but then like you die, and from that death you learn what you need to do during that phase. Mm-hmm. Right? It teaches you as you go. And so, like, it can get a little frustrating, but not impossible. You don't feel like you're gonna die stuck there. Except for the one freaking boss fight with Black, but whatever.
So what you're saying is, when you say, like, the first 5 hours, is either that, like, you like the parts that he had a chance over 8 years to go back and edit, or you don't like the person he's become. You like who he was in his early 20s. No, I'm joking.
No, see, I like the arc of the story. I think the execution was sometimes a little off. Mm-hmm. So, light spoilers to follow, but the arc of the story is generally, and it doesn't go here, which upset me, but it's a little bit about, like, how you can't just, like, help everybody, I guess. But, I mean, the end sort of implies that, like, Robin is the only one who's capable of doing things, and everybody should just let her do what she wants, which did not seem like the message the rest of the story was trying to send.
But you know what? Does sound like a reasonable message coming from a guy who built his own video game over 8 years.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But it was essentially just, like, breaking down the worldview of several different characters. And then it didn't quite stick the landing for me. But it goes into some interesting territory. I really liked Royal's arc. Mina was just kind of, I like where they could have taken her arc, but she was just kind of there for a lot of it. Elro was interesting. He's her brother, and he's, like, really fiercely protective of her. I feel like they couldn't make a clear choice of whether he was right about the way Robin had been acting, or if he was being a jerk.
You said they as if there's more than one person behind this.
Yes, that's true. I feel like he couldn't make a decision about whether Elro was right about Robin being, like, scarred by their father's death, and that's why she didn't talk, and that's why she did what she did, or if he was just sort of misunderstanding her. I felt like they didn't make a clear decision on that. I feel like one is more interesting than the other. The one's like, "Oh, stop it, bro. You're just a man," you know? And the other one's like, would actually be interesting, but that would require, like, Robin talking sometimes, you know, to, like, emphasize that her mutism is a reaction to something, which would be interesting because Metroidvanias always have, like, these silent protagonists, and what if there's an actual reason for that, you know? Whatever.
It feels hard to critique this game because I feel like I'm saying you, dude, personally, that made it. Like,
I know.
You are bad.
That is also the issue, right? That's the issue also with one-person creators, because there's really a lot to enjoy in Iconoclasts, and the things that bother me might not bother everybody who plays it. But it's really hard to critique a game that's just the passion project of one person, because it feels like you're passing a personal judgment. But I feel like at the end of the day, if you're putting your work out to the public sphere, that has to be something that you're willing to deal with, right?
I know, it's just hard
if somebody pays money to play your game and has things to say about it, then that's something that you have to stomach, and in exchange you got $20 from them. So,
yeah, I know.
Or some percentage of $20, probably.
But is $20 worth having random podcasts, like, rip into you?
I'm not trying to rip into it.
That was an exaggeration. Anyway, we need to move on.
Yeah. This was if you've been listening only for, like, the last few weeks, like, this was my Octopath Traveler before I played Octopath Traveler. This is what I talked about and, like, was frustrated with.
I really felt like when I was, like, researching this, I was like, didn't we already do an episode in Iconoclasts?
No.
We didn't, but there's definitely a full episode's worth of content scattered throughout the spring's podcast episodes. So if you're interested in hearing more of Emma's thoughts about this game, you should really go back, check out some of those, probably side quests, right? Check out some of the side quests. Yeah. Because back when it used to be just what did we play?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So side quest 3.0.
I find games that I feel like could have been absolutely stellar and are just average to be more frustrating than games that are bad.
Oh, we've always felt that way. I've always enjoyed bad theater much more than I enjoy mediocre theater.
Yeah. I mean, I also feel like you can learn more from those games, right? You can look at a game and be like, this should have been stellar, and look at it and realize why it was not. And so you can then take away lessons from that. So maybe that's why I like to talk about them too.
True critic, right there.
Ba-ching!
On that note, how are we going to mash these games up?
Oh, jeez, I don't know.
It's really hard because they both are very strong genre titles.
Yeah.
Right? Point and click, Metroidvania. Very hard to mash those things together.
Yeah, it really is.
Also, something I didn't talk about from Secret of Monkey Island is you, like, literally can't die in that game.
Yeah.
And he was really big into, like, he was tired of, like, people making games where, like, you had to solve puzzles and die. So it's really hard to mash these two games together, given that they are kind of at odds in spirit and in gameplay.
Yeah, pretty much, huh? Okay, well, let's keep it the sort of, I mean, it's 2D, right? Secret of Monkey Island is also 2D, so 2D, walk back and forth across the screen. There you go. So that's something from both of them. Keep the pirate, I think, because mechanic is so, like, exclusive to the Iconoclast world, but it's similar sort of role, right?
It could be like a ship builder.
A ship builder?
Like for a pirate.
For a pirate?
Yeah.
So you're like their
There's
shipwright?
like an actual, I don't think the word is shipwright, is it?
I think it is, isn't it?
Sure, we'll go with that. Shipwright.
You have a shipwright for a pirate crew? Like, you come on board and fix their stuff? Yeah. Okay, so there's the premise. So what happens?
Okay, so you can kind of do a game within a game mechanic, right? I don't want to make a point and click, but maybe that would be cool. Maybe people will be into that as, like, a throwback. Like a point and click game in 2018. Nobody makes those anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you know, basically the mechanicking in Iconoclast is point and press a button. She just, like, hit things with a wrench. She just, like, screws them, I guess.
Okay, so it's like a point and click where you have to build a ship. But sometimes then you've built the ship. This is not going in a good place, but I'm just going to keep on pushing through. Like, you point and click to build the ship, right? And there's all sorts of, like, point and click type puzzles to build the ship. But sometimes you have to go out and get new parts for the ship. And when you go out to get new parts, it turns into a Metroidvania, like, adventure, where you have to go get the part and bring it back.
I was kind of thinking, like, you would be on the ship with the pirates, and as damage appeared, you would have to go fix it. And so to, like, navigate the ship in a more speedy way to make sure you're getting to all the damage, like, in the middle of a cannon fight, for instance, you have to, like, platform around.
Okay, I have an idea, though. I think we can combine these. So at first, at the beginning of the game, you have to build the ship, right? And it's just a small ship. It's a small pirate ship at first. And then you sail the ship, and you do exactly what you just described. But eventually, like, there are points in the game after boss fights where your ship is just, like, it's too damaged. So, like, either you have to go repair it, or you just realize you need a bigger ship. So, like, that's how and I know in Iconoclast, the leveling, not leveling, but the, like, augmentation system, right, is very subtle. But, like, F that, right? We're going to be, like, building our ships bigger and bigger so we can continue to tackle bigger and bigger battles, bosses, puzzles.
Okay. And there's the mayor of your pirate city is super cute and stuff. Yeah. But she's kidnapped by the theocratic ghost pirate.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Some sort of
like
authority
an angel. They're like the archangel.
Sure. Yeah, they're like,
it's like Pirates of the Caribbean, where everybody's an undead pirate.
Yes. But they're like an authority too. So you're like, smashing down the theocracy or
for
whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you rescue the mayor, but you have to leave her behind, and you don't say anything to her.
God, that part pissed me off.
I think this is a quality game. I haven't really like outlined how the point and click stuff works, but who cares really?
Why'd you have to remind me of that point in Iconoclasts? Oh, it's about my whole playlist is centered around Madelyn. You're just trying to bait me. You're just trying to bait me out, aren't you?
I like pointed and clicked on you, and I was like, piss him off. That's my command. I think that's a solid game.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
I don't really understand how like your ship like platforms.
And we will hire about 5 people to work on it with us.
With us? So like 7 in total, or we're hiring 3?
7 in total.
Okay.
I think 7 is a solid number for
How many will
an
work
indie.
on the mini games?
Oh, 4.
How many will work on the gummy levels? What we've really just created is the gummy ship.
No, but it's different because you're not piloting it or shooting. You're Donald in the gummy ship.
No, we've created Chip and Dale's gummy adventure.
Yes, you're Chip and Dale. Watch out, Sora! On your left! I'm sorry. Watch out, Guybrush! This is a big one coming in.
What's our name now? It can't be Guybrush. It's 2018.
Guybrush isn't a proper 2018 name.
Guy is not yet established as gender neutral.
Oh, okay. It isn't?
Human brush.
People.
Iconoclasts.
People comb.
It'll be called... What is the title of this game?
The Secret of the Icon Monkeys.
Nice.
Secret of the Monkey Icon.
Quality. On that note, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Talk This. Once again, I'm Madelyn.
I'm Emma.
And it's dangerous to podcast alone. I just wanted to say it once. I never get to say the second half.
Well, sorry.
Ouch. That point and click, be savage to me. Anyway, while Emma is getting our virtual hat set up, I'll go ahead and plug our social media. We talked a little bit about some of it already in our episode, but just to recap, you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'll Talk This Podcast, where you can see the latest updates from us, things we're thinking, things we're playing, articles we're reading. We've been kind of busy, and our social media has been a little quieter than usual, hoping that in the month of October, that will be something that we are able to rectify.
Yes.
Because I've been wanting to read more video game news, and I want to share it even more with you.
It's mostly been our Instagram that's been a little dead.
Which is a shame, because I've been making some dank memes for Clickbait Boyfriend.
Why just put them on Instagram every day?
I'm tired. It takes a lot of thought to have to hashtag them, and I'm tired.
Sorry, okay.
Anyway, I mentioned Clickbait Boyfriend. What's that, you say? Well, I'll tell you. It's on our blog on our website, www.talkthispodcast.com. You can read our blog, our premiere series right now, our Clickbait Boyfriend, where my boyfriend is playing through the Kingdom Hearts series. He's really almost up to date. Sort of. Not really at all, actually. But he feels up to date to me because I haven't played any other games.
He's pretty up to date now. The blog isn't quite up to date yet.
The blog is less than a month from being up to date.
Well, when 2 of them are movies.
Yeah. Anyway, also Split Screen, which is our kind of off-topic corner blog, which I'll tell you more about in a minute, where we watch Boys Over Flowers, such a K-drama, and My Hero Academia, the Japanese anime, and other things. Are kind of our show notes, my Buzz This series, all that good stuff. Plus, on our website, you can read more about us. You can see the games in the hat. Lots of fun. I also mentioned earlier on the episode our YouTube channel. There you can find us, Talk This Sisters. You should subscribe so you don't miss any Play This series. You should go check out that one on Iconoclasts in particular, but there are tons of good entries, including one that just released last week. So really, Don't miss it. Play this is super cool. I think it's awesome. Let's see, what else? Oh, duh. You're listening to the podcast. You've made it this far. I didn't scare you away with the opening joke, so you probably want to hear more. Well, never miss an episode by subscribing to the podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. So make sure you add us to your weekly podcast repertoire or listening plate or whatever you think of your podcast stream as being. I think that's pretty much all I've got here. Emma, are you ready to pick our new and old games?
Leave us a review, too.
That too. Review and rate.
Yes. And share it with your friends if you think that we are the type of bubbly and enjoyable people that they would enjoy.
Because, as we say, it's dangerous to podcast alone.
Truly.
So better to share it with your friends.
And that means podcasting and listening to podcasts. Both are equally risky
Podcast,
activities.
the verb, can go either way. All right, Emma, do you want to pick our old game for 2 weeks from now?
I surely do. So for our old game, we are talking about... Did we do this already?
Did we do it? No, I don't think we... No, we did Assassin's Creed.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Because I played it. It would be very timely. No, there's a new game. I was very excited about that.
My list is a little out of date, but let me try again.
We're trying to work through the list. The Sims!
The Sims!
Oh, that'll be fun.
That's almost Assassin's Creed.
The Sims and Assassin's Creed are essentially the same.
Yes.
You murder people.
And for our new game, we will be talking about Celeste, which gives me an excuse to buy it. So there you go.
Perfect. All right, folks, that's 2 weeks from now. Next week, we'll have one of our side quest episodes where we'll talk about what we've been playing, our question of the fortnight, our weather report, our traffic report, and our off-topic corner, as I mentioned earlier. So that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Shall I sign off this time?
Sure, Madelyn.
I hope that if you had a birthday this week, you had a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday!